Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the WhiskAYE podcast. This time, episode number 35, probably about the 18th uploaded in a week. In about 2032, something like that. So hopefully the world still exists. As usual, or as always, we are looking at a Dram Team box. But we're going to be running this one slightly differently because of how the box is set up. So bear with us, and you'll have a new exciting way of experiencing whiskey.
Second-hand whiskey enjoyment.
Yeah, exactly. This is trickle-down whiskey enjoyment. We get all the whiskey, but then some of the enjoyment trickles down to you. You just have to keep giving us more whiskey. So anyway, the box this time is the compare and contrast box. So the card reads, in this box, we've compiled 3 pairs of whiskies from 3 different categories of Scotch, each compelling in their own right. Challenge yourself to compare and contrast, exploring both the similarities of these sibling sippers and what sets them apart. Happy dramming. So, without further ado, do you want to get us into our first one?
Yep. So up first, we've got blended malt Scotch whiskey is the category. Interestingly, they're 2 from each category, but each time they're also 2 from each distillery or bottler. So up first, we've got J.G. Thomson's Sweet Batch number 1 blended malt Scotch whiskey. Now, it says on the card here, our first dram from brand new and simultaneously old blender J.G. Thomson is their sweet blended malt Scotch. Originally a wine and spirits merchant dating from the 1700s, the brand just relaunched in their original Leith home in Edinburgh. This core range expression uses Speyside and Highland malts matured in an array of charred and toasted American oak casks to produce a lovely sweet drop. Interesting, from Edinburgh.
1700s is knocking on as well. I wonder when Berry Bros and Rudds, because they're the oldest continuous, aren't they?
Yeah. I think they're quite old as well. But
yeah, maybe it'll say. Maybe we'll find out.
Yeah. So on the nose, you should be getting toasted oak, vanilla pods, and coconut. So pretty classic sort
of... kind of like those virgin oak, bourbon oak smells, yeah.
Classic sort of sweet whiskey smells.
Yeah, it's definitely a bit of oak. Vanilla. Yeah, I could get coconut. It's got kind of that flatness to it.
I might struggle with the nosing. I've had a bit of a blocked nose recently, but currently it's not blocked.
This might clear it up if it was blocked.
Yeah.
Well, then I'm going to dive in. What should I be tasting?
On a palette, it says you should be getting almonds, fudge, and cinnamon custard. So, an interesting.
It's a little spicy, that one. Yeah, fudge, like a vanilla fudge. I get cinnamon custard. Maybe that's the spice and the vanilla-iness.
Yeah.
A little bit of light spice.
Or
almonds, yeah, like almonds in chocolate. You know, like in Toblerone when you get them and you just get the almonds, the only bit left, and you're chewing on it.
Yeah. That's more like nuggets, though, isn't it?
Yeah. I don't get it as like an almond just by itself, though. I don't get any nuttiness from it. And almonds are a little bit nutty.
Like a toasted almond or something.
Or blanched or whatever they are. Yeah. I don't know if I call it sweet. Like it's a 2/3 out of 5 for sweetness, that.
It's kind of straight down the middle. It's a very...
I have a feeling like 2 of the whiskies we're about to drink later will be sweeter.
I would agree. But I think this is a bit of a sort of... It very much tastes like a bourbon cask Scotch. You know? Just...
Yeah. Yeah, okay. So we'll put kind of... I reckon coconut. Typical bourbon nosing. vanilla fudge. Typical bourbon tasting.
Yeah.
Like
obviously it doesn't taste like bourbon whiskey.
No, it's bourbon.
It tastes like
malt
Scotch that's taken on a lot of bourbon character.
Yeah, it's nice, but not remarkable.
No, I don't know. What are you thinking for a score on that?
I feel like that's a definition of a 3, isn't it?
Pretty much exactly what I was going to say. Straight down the middle. Like,
yeah, I feel. No, it's like I say, it's good but not remarkable.
It's nothing that I would say, oh, why you give me that for? But although again,
no, you got to remember the competition it's up against as well.
Yeah, again, this is also part of our issue with our scoring, where I think we should have probably made like. At this point, having looked at our scoring, maybe we needed to make like 0 absolutely terrible, 0.5 palatable but we don't like it, 1 an average whiskey, and then we would have had more headroom for. But
maybe what we ought to do one time is make a box of what we think represents like a 0 or 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5.
Yeah, we could do that. That could be a good.
I mean, I've got one for a 0.
It's at your house, so I'll do it in person.
It is here, yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So in a bit of a twist from how we normally run it.
Yeah, it's
do you
back
want
to
to
me.
take us on to number 2?
Yeah.
It is.
So.
If you like my co-host, this is going to be your dream episode.
I do have a little bit of coming back to me, because we're going back to another blended malt Scotch whiskey from J.G. Thompson. So the card says, it's a J.G. Thompson Smoky batch number 1.
So we've had sweet batch number 1, now we're doing smoky batch.
It's almost like they heard about our little flavour profiles, and they're like, oh, we'll make whiskey for each one.
If they start releasing J.G. Thompson wine. So yeah, they've got sweet, smoky, sherry, savoury, and then wait a minute.
But yeah, I also feel like this is sort of like, the blending kit that we have that we've yet to do. They do have they're just here.
You have to post that. What? Post that down here for when you visit.
I could do that actually, and then we could just do it in person. Sounds good.
I just thought of that.
Yeah. We'll work out the time and then I'll post it down. That's for admin after the call. But yeah.
Yeah.
So the card says, our second of J.G. Thompson's core range blended malt scotches. This smoky edition is comprised of 100% Islay malt, surprise, surprise, aged in a mix of American oak, ex-Pedro Jimenez butts, and ex-bourbon hogsheads. Unusually, it is blended using a Solera method, whereby a portion of the whiskey removed for bottling is replaced with fresh younger spirit, which merges into the already aging blend in an ongoing maturation cycle. So it's pretty interesting. You probably would prefer that they didn't sherry and do multiple mixed casks in the Solera casket on the one that you're probably not going to like, but
I mean, it'll be different.
Well, I mean, here we go. On the nose, ash, medicinal and fruity.
So 2 of those are just things that I'm immediately turned off by.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, I just looked on the website. They do 3 in the car range. Obviously, the smoky, the sweet. It's not an S. It's rich.
That's probably sherry casks.
Probably sherried. Let's have a look. Real sherry bomb.
Yeah. I figured.
Yeah, you said so. Okay, ash. It is very medicinal peat. This one.
Oh yeah. Not a tire fire, but more like
It's sweet peat. It's like TCP.
To me. Classic. What's it called? Not Lafrague.
Lagavulin?
I think it's Lagavulin. Can't remember. But yeah, the classical sort of medicinal, heathery ash.
Ever. Yeah, that's a good one.
Um,
Okay.
and then
Go
on
for
the
it.
palate, we're going for smoked meats, cloves, and honeycomb. I guess the honeycomb's coming through from your sort of.
That's actually not as peated as the nose would give you. It builds. It's not medicinal peat taste-wise. I will give it that. It's more bonfire, barbecue kind of. There's a bit of an earthiness to the smoke rather than it being like super light and sweet.
Yeah,
Cloves is actually pretty spot on.
I would say that this is the kind of peat that I'm most able to get on board with, because it doesn't overpower the flavour.
No, there are other flavours coming through. It is well managed. I don't know whether I'm just getting better at drinking peated whiskey or.
I think there is probably an element that we're getting that, but I also think that there are certain. I think the medicinal stuff generally it is like TCP and strips your palate, and you can't taste anything else. Whereas
there's meat flavours in there, quite savoury.
Like if you're a person
sweet on the back end as well.
If you're a person who has smoked bacon in your bacon roll, this is the level of smoke that you're getting for the most part.
Yeah. Smoked meats hit, don't dominate. Slight spiciness. Builds towards the finish. Yeah, I mean, the nose worried me.
Yeah.
But if I am going to have to have peat, I would much rather have a grounded, earthy, smoked meat kind of peat than medicinal. And this is not too heavy to say. It's all Islay malts. Maybe the Jimenez and the bourbon hogsheads has blunted it a little bit.
Personally,
Islay malts aging.
But personally, I think it's probably to do with the Solera cask method a little bit, because they'll have to leave it in there for quite a while, but so it's taken on some flavors, like it'll have Pedro Jimenez flavor and bourbon flavor, and I don't know, it won't be fresh American oak, but I'm assuming whatever it is, it might be fresh, and then it has those flavors, but each time you're adding more in, it's sort of developing those flavors through, whilst the peat's just going to stay at whatever level it's at. I'm not sure. It could also possibly have, the lesser peated. It could be Carolinas and Bunnahabhains in there that are Bruichladdich.
Yeah,
that's the one.
I don't mind a Bruichladdich, to be honest. Because they don't do fully peated ones, they do some non-peated. So I was just looking up what kind of casks the Frey use.
I was just trying to find out. I think they have got a sherry bomb.
They do sherry and bourbon.
Yeah.
Do you want to score that one?
I'd probably give that a 3 as well.
You're going to give that one a 3. I've got to give it a 2.5 just because it's not as good for me. So,
in the spirit of this box, that was a sort of almost accidental pun. We should probably do a little bit here where we compare and contrast them. I feel like it's pretty easy to do here. It
is. But in a way, so, the contrast is obvious. Sweet versus smoky, peat versus non-peat, fine. But in a way, those were both kind of like gateway whiskies to their type. So sweet was absolutely like, here is a good bourbon scotch. And I think the smoky was also, here's a good, not peat bomb. These are whiskies you could give someone who's not had a whiskey before and be like, this is basically what a bourbon whiskey tastes like. This is what a peated whiskey tastes like.
100% agree. I would say that the contrast is that they are very obviously, whilst they are both blended malt Scotch whiskey, one is basically an Islay and one is basically a bourbon cask of any of the other regions. And
Yeah.
not that there's no differentiation between Lowland, Campbelltown, but
They always do. Everywhere there's a bourbon cask.
yeah. And I would say that the contrast, that's a contrast in them, is that they're basically in two different styles of whiskey, but the comparison is that they are both pitched at exactly the same level of this is what this whiskey tastes like.
Yeah.
I'd be
like
very
if you
interested.
were, if I was trying to introduce someone to whiskey or whatever and be like, this is a bourbon whiskey, that would be a good one to start with, because it's not, the fact that it's not remarkable is its strength almost.
You kind of don't want something like that to be like that. If you're like, here's what a bourbon cask whiskey tastes like, and then someone drinks it and they're like, oh, that's amazing, and then you give them like a different one and they're like, oh.
Yeah, it's like if I was going to give someone a sherry whiskey, as an, we've never had it before, I wouldn't go straight to like an Abuna or a Glenfarclas 105 or something like that, because it'll take the head off.
Yeah.
You need to work your way up.
Agreed.
Although Abuna was my first, but that's because I'm an idiot and I was 19 and it was 60% whiskey and I was like, gonna drink that.
Yeah.
I
would also like to point out that
yes.
I'd like to try their rich, in inverted commas, batch number 1 or batch number anything. I assume that the reason that they're batched is because they'll never be. They're just trying to hit a sort of flavor profile, but they're not trying to blend it like it's Chivas and it's got to taste the same every time. Like a Solera cask is never going to taste the same every time, but I'm assuming that they're not going for the J.G. Thompson Sweet always tastes exactly like this.
No, it's batch whiskey. Yeah. But I think agreed. I would like to try the rich, because I think if this is, I think they're basically the definition of a car range.
Yeah.
These two. So absolutely, I would like to try the sherried one. They're rich, so hint, hint, Chris.
Yeah.
If you're listening, you haven't already sent it in the 6 years since we recorded this. J.G. Thompson Rich would be good. Should we move on to my bit? Are you willing to hand over the reins for a little bit?
Your little middle of the podcast bit, since we're doing it this way.
Yeah, so I'll put a timestamp in if you want to skip over this and get back to the
also
the main event.
Before we continue on, there might be a little bit of a
Yes.
lag between our voices. Should have probably mentioned at the intro, but basically Scotland and Wales internet not really working very well together today, so one of the hamsters has fallen off the wheel.
Goddamn Celts. Right. So I'm just pouring it out, and then I will tell you what I am pouring out. So this is a Glenrothes 12-year-old, and it is our first example from this box of a single malt Scotch. So we have 2 single malt Scotches, and as you probably guessed from previous, they're both from Glenrothes. So this might be a little bit more difficult of a comparison because they're not quite so diametrically opposed to the previous ones, but we shall see. So this one, the first one we've got, is a Glenrothes 12 years old. And this one surprised me because it says our first dram from the Speyside Distillery Glenrothes, and I thought we'd had Glenrothes from...
I think we've just had a lot of Glenrothes, so...
Yeah.
We've been there. Not that you could go in or anything, but we've seen it.
Have we?
Yeah, we were standing outside it. That's Glenrothes is in Rothes.
Glenrothes?
It's next to the antique shop.
No. That was that wasn't Glenrothes. That was.
Oh no, that was a different one. But wait,
like Speyburn or something like that, because it was half your name. No, Glenrothes is. It's not in. It's like on an industrial estate by the looks of it.
Possibly. Maybe I'm wrong. I think I might be wrong. Yeah. We've been near it.
It's way out of Speyside. No, that can't be right. I'm looking at the wrong place.
You're looking at the town of.
There's a town called.
In Fife.
Yeah. Okay. I was like, it's way outside of Speyside. No, that won't make any sense.
If you look at the map of
it's
Rothes,
just down from Glen Grant. Yeah.
Yeah. I think we didn't go around to it. It's round the corner.
Yeah. We went to. So there's Glen Grant, but we did come down.
We saw Glen Spey. That's the one we saw.
Yes, that's it.
And Glen Office is round the corner. So.
Yeah, maybe we couldn't get through because Glen Spey couldn't get into, so maybe there was no way down there. Anyway, sorry, a bit of tangent. Me not being able to find a Speyside distillery in Speyside. So this is a first dram from Speyside Distillery. Glen Office is aged 12 years and matured only in sherry seasoned oak casks. Not necessarily all first fill casks, take a mental note. And is bottled at 40% ABV, meaning the spirit will have been chill filtered to stop it being cloudy at room temperature. Glenrothes keep their tasting notes short and sweet, so put on your best detective's hat and dive in to explore the flavours. So the only tasting notes we have from this is character of vanilla, melon, and cinnamon. If you were going to wear a detective's hat, what would it look like?
Deerstalker.
Are you going straight up Sherlock Holmes?
Yeah.
I was thinking like a fedora or whatever, like a gumshoe.
Yeah, that's a possible option as well, like a PI film noir.
Exactly.
Like a Detective Comics.
Yeah, maybe it's I had one in mind.
Yeah. I would say first off, melon, an interesting tasting note. That's pretty infrequent.
Yeah.
The problem being that my brain obviously always thinks of watermelon when it's melon, but it's probably more likely a honeydew, which is sort of.
Yeah, so I'm looking for those like those syrup that you get in tinned fruit flavors.
Yeah. The other thing I'd like to say is the whole you wouldn't let me stop stuttering over words, and the fact that it says it's not necessarily all first fill casks, it's interesting to me because when I was thinking, why not? It's like 12-year-old, it's a premium, but then actually because it's a 12-year-old, you have less choice of what goes into it because you're trying to fit the flavour profile of the Glenrothes 12-year-old. So if you've got one that's second or third fill, but that meets what you need to make the flavour profile, then it's going to go in.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Because there's, I think most of the job of a blender is understanding what the casks you have taste like, and then knowing how to combine two to get an exact flavor. That's the basic.
Yeah, they're very clever.
That's the job. It's like these two flavors are diametrically opposed, but when we combine them together, we get the one I want. So that's what we're doing.
Yeah,
There's probably a side to it. Almost like there was
they are very clever. It's like alchemy.
It's almost like there was a bachelor's degree in brewing and distilling at my university that I could have done. It's basically just chemical engineering, but with taking away your ability to do any chemical engineering job and making it so you're only eligible for jobs in brewing and distilling.
The best jobs. One day we'll be there. Right. So what do you get then from the nose? It's kind of like a toasted caramel, maybe?
Yeah, there's something fruity on it.
There is a bit of melon in there if you kind of give it a one nostril go.
Yeah, I'm trying to like reset so I can get that first pass again. It's one of those ones that's there until the esters hit you and then it's dead.
Yeah. The main flavour is the...
It's like fruit gummies. Like a Gold Bears or a Haribo Star Mix, the rings out of them or something like that, like a fruit flavoured pig byproduct.
Good old gelatin.
Yeah.
Do you want to go in for your tasting then? And I'll remind you what the tasting notes said. So all we've got for the tasting notes for this one is character of vanilla, melon, and cinnamon. So you get that honeydew out of it.
There is something syrupy, sugary, but like fresh. It's quite light for a Glenrothes, to be fair. Like, it doesn't have that heavy punch of. Apologies, Bear agrees.
Yeah, to say it's only done in sherry casks. Yeah, there's definitely that meloniness at the finish, like as the heat of the whiskey dies off.
Yeah, it's sort of
definitely getting that more now.
does have a bit more of the sort of fragrant melon flavor at the end than how melon has that sort of, it's like watermelon is the peak example because it basically has none of the syrupiness. It's watery and then fragrant, whereas like honeydews and what's the other one? The green rind with the orange inside. I can't remember.
Not big on my melons, I'm afraid.
It's maybe a cantaloupe anyway, but sister fruit. But it's they have that sort of floralness, and I think that's maybe what they're getting at with the melon.
I think floral's a good word.
Yeah, it's like fruity and then into floral.
Yeah, it's like you've got a sherried whiskey and then you've diluted it. It's like you've already put the water in.
That's possibly part of the whole.
The chill filter in.
Well,
but it'll be diluted to get to 5%.
Chill filtering and not all first fills. So if you're on like a third or fourth fill, the sherry punch isn't going to be as hard, and you're going to be getting more of the undertones of the sherry than the straight up front Christmas cake.
Yeah. Nice.
It's quite nice. It's different, which anyone who's a long-term listener, which is maybe like 3 people, 2 of them are on the call. It's that's a thing that I do like about whiskey is when it's different. So
yeah. There's a lot of ones. There's a lot of like cherry bombs out there, and I love them. But it takes a bit of bravery to step outside that and try something new.
Yeah, after so long, you're like, it tastes a lot like a PX cask.
I don't need another cherry bomb. I've got a few favourites now.
Yeah.
And you won't do it better than them because it's not possible. Like they've mastered that flavour profile.
Pretty much.
You want to give that one a scar?
I'd probably give that. I feel like 3.5 is low, but 4 is high. So
I was thinking 3.5.
Yeah, 3.5 I'm happy with, but I feel like it's not a 4.
It's not a 4, but it's not. Yeah, it's like a 3.75 if there was one.
Again, another fault in the scoring system being highlighted today.
Yeah, there are many.
It's almost like we just came up with it the first time we did this and then never changed it.
Start doing out of 100, like Jim.
It's copyrighted and cancelled.
That's far as slipping an insult there about Jim, but you covered it nicely, so that's good. Please don't cancel us.
Yeah.
We haven't got started yet. You can't cancel us. You can't cancel what doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Tapping me.
How do you kill that which has no life? South Park references.
Yeah. I wonder what. Yeah. It rang a bell and I couldn't remember. So
Warcraft.
Yeah. I like that. Well, I like that episode a lot because I used to be like, that's not that zone. That's so-and-so zone. I know where that is. And I had sword and eventually didn't get it in vanilla because it was from the toughest raid in the game, but I did get it eventually.
Yeah.
What was it? Okay. Anyway, so the next one is another Glenrothes, obviously. And this is the Whiskey Maker's Cut. And the card says, our second drop from Glenrothes is not necessarily as long matured as a 12-year-old, being a no-age statement release, aka a NAS, but it is both matured exclusively in first fill sherry season casks and bottled at a notably higher strength. So the last one was 40%, this is 48.8. Selected by their master whiskey maker. What differences can you detect from its older stablemate? Now, this is quite an interesting experiment. Age versus cask type and strength.
Yeah,
I suppose.
Again,
maybe it'd have been good if this was the same strength, because then you could have been you only got one variable.
Oh, that's more scientific, but yeah.
Yeah, you're doing any science.
I've actually
just from the
noticed
start, this is a lot darker.
Sorry, I was going to say I've actually noticed that this is the only one where there's a differing percentage. The others are all both pairs are the same percent.
This is what
Weirdly,
employers.
46% seems to be like a new standard. I don't know if they chill filter to 46 to make it seem like it's not chill filtered. But...
Well, they don't chill filter to
Yeah.
they dilute it, and then chill filter to stop it getting cloudy. But yeah, it's part of the process.
That's what I mean.
But I'm thinking, because it used to be 43. Obviously, it was 40 and 43. But yeah, 46 seems to occur a lot. So I'm wondering if like some have decided that you lose too much of the character at 40.
Possibly.
Then again. Okay, so again,
sorry, talking away again because of the delay. But then again, there's some distilleries that can't even hit a 46 if they try nowadays. So
yeah. Well, you know, there's that many distilleries out there. They're not all going to be amazing.
I was more just meaning, you know, Paul John and what's the Israeli one?
Oh well, no, Milk and Honey, but they can hit high percentages. They just can't hit long ages.
But the problem is, I think that a lot of the time when they're 3 years old, they've lost a lot of their percentage. Like they can't hit 80. You know.
No, but I wonder how old they've got to be, because like don't forget it's 3 years old here, but it's 2 years old in America.
I think if they want to be in the whiskey with a no E.
I don't think it's whiskey with no E.
That's true. I think to be fair,
I'm not saying it's not. I just don't know.
Yeah, maybe they can just make a new standard for Israeli whiskey or Indian whiskey. Yeah. Anyway, on to the whiskey.
You have a dive in. Sorry, I've got to smell it first. What am I thinking?
Because there's no nose. There's no nosing notes.
Yes, so tasting notes again, similar to the previous RFS. We only get one line. Creamy vanilla, orange peel, and nutmeg character.
It's interesting because I was going to say there's some sort of citric notes in the classic sherry smell.
Yeah, that is a classic sherry smell underneath, though, isn't it?
Yeah, but I think being at 48.8,
kind of salted carameliness.
Yeah, I think the higher percentage is causing it to be a bit sharper, which is making me get those citric things where it would maybe sometimes be a dried fruit in a lower percentage.
Yeah, citric. Nearly said that wrong. Citric notes above the sherry nosing, not something notes above the sherry nosing.
Yeah.
I could have gone wrong.
3 whiskies in with the tongue teasers.
Maybe it's a new branch of fruit characterized by the lemon.
Yeah. Similar to the tobacco.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So it's I'll give you that citrus, and then there's definitely like sherry smells under there. Yeah. Okay. What are you tasting then? Again, the tasting notes give you creamy vanilla, orange peel, and nutmeg character.
What was that one from the last podcast? The Christmas orange.
Oh, wait, I still got the cards here. Give me a second. Christingle or something like that.
Yeah, Christingle orange. Maybe there's a bit of that going on.
Crisscross tingle orange. Oh, it wasn't in the last one, was it? It was in the one before.
That would have been the Christmas one, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
I think it was Christingle.
I wrote it down because I think it was, yeah. Cause it's like a place setting, isn't it? It's not something you actually eat. Yeah. No, so
it's an orange with cloves.
I guess that tastes like. Yeah.
So the orange with the nutmeg is. It's only very, very subtle. But
yeah, orange and nutmeg.
I think it's more. It's definitely more sherry flavored than the last one. but we're not at the
You're
comparison
getting ahead of yourself.
yet. Yeah.
There's definitely sherry notes in there, but it's not a sherry bomb. It's still softened sherry.
Mm.
It's like brown sugar kind of flavors.
Yeah. It's sweet, but it's not like deep caramel or treacle or anything like that. Like it's
No.
Demerara is probably a good shout on it.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, kind of like that. Yeah, that darker sweetness.
Yeah. Whole grain sugar, as I like to think of it.
Yeah. Whole wheat sugar.
Still exactly the same amount of calories, but it's brown, so it's better for you.
It's better for you. It's got roughage.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the latest. That and it's got protein in it.
Yeah. I mean,
now we've added protein. It's like, and then you look at the back and it's like per serving 3.5 grams. It's like it's nothing. There's no.
To be fair,
no
it depends. If it was something that had no protein in it before, that's quite substantial. If you're trying
I get
to
more
hit...
protein from that. You get more than 3.5 grams protein from that. Looking at a cow, never mind.
Yeah. I just meant like at breakfast, unless you want to actually cook your breakfast every day. It's quite tricky to get good protein in. Cheese, I suppose. Milk, somewhat, but you know,
just eat a block of cheese.
If you're sure that'll be great for your digestion for the rest of the day.
Yeah, how many days could you get into that diet? Day 4, physically unable to eat any more food because my digestive system has just stopped.
Yeah. But I've got a lot of healthy bacteria, so...
Yeah, you're getting a little boost every time you squat.
Yeah.
Mind, if you had that much cheese and you were squatting, like your life would flash before your eyes every time you did it. Especially if you're doing it in a gym.
Yeah.
You'd be like, "Is this today? No, okay."
I saw something, but I don't want to talk about it on the podcast about squatting in the gym. So if I remember at the end, I'll tell you about it. But
seen that video of that woman?
That's the one.
Deadlifting.
Yeah. It was deadlift.
Yeah. I wonder if that's what you're talking about. Yeah, we will discuss that after. So I've given it citric notes above the sherry nose in orange and nutmeg, brown sugar, sweet but not caramel or treacle.
Yep.
Going to give that on a score then?
I would probably... I'd hesitate to go to 4 still.
You know what? I was thinking the same. I was thinking 3.5.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, like, that's going to make compare and contrasting annoying because
Same
we scored them the same. So, in terms of compare and contrast, it's weird because the first one was definitely less sherried.
Yeah.
And a little bit sweeter.
Agreed.
But it was like they both handled the sherry in a different way.
Yeah, I think they were both interesting in the way they had it. I think I preferred the flavour of the Whiskey Maker's Cut.
Yes.
But it was more, that's what you expect. And so the Glenrothes got a boost because it was a bit different.
Yeah, no, I liked the Glenrothes Whiskey Maker's Cut was almost like a sherried whiskey, but not as good as other sherried whiskies. Whereas Glenrothes 12 years old was like, maybe I didn't like the flavours as much, but it was unique.
Yes, that's what I was getting at.
Yeah. I've never had like a sherried whiskey that goes into like a kind of watermelon flavour.
No. It was... So yeah, the surprisingly, when we thought that the contrast was going to be the harder thing, I feel like the comparison is the harder thing because the only thing to really say is they're both from the same place and they both have a sherry influence. But the 12-year-old,
I think like if you're going to compare them, they were both like attempts to handle sherry without making a sherry bomb.
That's fair.
So you've got a NAS with a Whiskey Maker's Cut, so you're not giving it too long in first fill sherry butts.
Yeah.
and you've got like a diluted one in the single malt. So you have given it 12 years, but they might not all be first fill.
Agreed.
So yeah, and you've diluted it down to 40%. So it is like they've done two different ways. So the whiskey maker's cut is like the more traditional way of dealing with a sherry bomb and not make it into a sherry bomb. So you do it as a NAS. The 12 years old, maybe the 12 years old is like an older fashioned way of doing it. You know, you cut it down to 40%. You might not use the first fill casks. So maybe it's like old and new ways of handling sherry without making a sherry bomb.
Yeah, and I mean, Glen RFS do have, I think they have one that's called like the Sherry Cask Reserve or something. And I think so. They do have their own whiskey bomb. I think they might have a couple in their range that are sort of whiskey bomb-esque. So it's interesting that whiskey bomb, sherry bomb. So it's good that they're. I feel like this is rather than just having a range of things that are all very similar takes on. Here's Christmas cake. It's good that they've got these different styles.
So at the moment, it looks like maybe they'd be launched because you've got a 10-year-old, 12-year-old, 18-year-old, 25-year-old, 50-year-old, and the whiskey maker's cut.
Yeah.
50 years old.
50. Also, I think the 25 might be quite heavily sherried as well. It's quite expensive though, but yeah.
Yeah, I bet. 25 tropical fruits, salted caramel.
Yeah, I think
mango and pineapple is its biggest flavors.
Interesting. But yeah, I think that it's a space side, isn't it? So everyone's competing for that. Have a sherry bomb. Have a really nice bourbon cask.
A bourbon one, yeah. Welcome back. There may have been a slight cut there. You may have noticed technical difficulties or biological difficulties, one of the two. But we are back now and ready for whiskey number 5.
Yeah, so it's back to me for the final two. We're going.
So this is a timestamp moment.
Yeah, we're going to bottlers that we know well.
Whoa. Let's just say, let's speak for ourselves.
Yeah.
Not we. Let's
speak. We know them well.
I know, but you've got a history here, and as the oldest and most prestigious of the bottlers, I would rather not burn my future employment opportunities. So
I've backtracked. They redeemed themselves. I've said it multiple times. I've forgotten about the redemption.
Distancing myself from you.
Yeah. Right. We're going to a couple of bottlings from
my favourite bottler,
Barry Bros and Rudd, which are interesting because they are both single grain Scotch whiskey.
So this is kind of like, not quite, but almost like the peat for you compared to me, because I really like a single grain, and you're not that fussed, are you?
No, quite often I've had single grains where I was like, nah, but there are also single grain whiskies that I do like. There, there's been ryes that I don't like, but I like rye in general. So
yeah. I don't think you dislike single grain as much as I dislike peat.
No,
but
I think that's very difficult.
It's that inversion in that I really like a single grain.
Yeah. So this is the Garvin 2006 12-year-old single grain Scotch whiskey from Barry Bros and Rudd. Garvin Distillery is on the west coast of the Scottish Lowlands and is part of the William Grant and Sons Group. It presents excellently at a young age, which, combined with the credentials of the UK's oldest independent bottler, means this is bound to be a great introduction to this underappreciated category of Scotch. So they did just say oldest independent bottler, didn't say anything about how old it is, so we can't really compare it to J.G. Thompson's 1700, but I think they've been going the whole time. So
1698.
Oh, cheeky, 2 years.
Well, it said 1700s, I think, didn't it?
I think it said the actual 1700s, but
Let's
oh no, it
see.
said 1700s, so it could be literally 101 years, but probably not.
Yeah. I'm just looking at J.G. Thompson. So, what are we getting on the nose?
On the nose, you should be getting pronounced aromas of vanilla, custard creams, and lively citrus.
I'm going to say 1700s.
I'm going to guess that there's disputed timelines of when this first began, and that's why it just says 1700s.
True.
Because
records weren't that great.
Records weren't great then, yeah.
Yeah. I like the custard cream. No, I think that's pretty good.
I do sort of agree with it as well. It's like a custard cream, but instead of a proper cup of tea, you've went and got like raspberry tea.
Oh, I like that shout. Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot. You're giving me a good image, and I think that fits. Custard cream with raspberry tea. Yeah, because there's a bit of sharpness there, isn't there?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like when people say citrus, what they generally mean is there's a bitter fruity smell. And I feel like raspberries are also in that, you know.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because you can tell like raspberry jam from strawberry jam. Yeah.
It's not. Strawberry jam is sweet, and a lot of jams are very sweet, and raspberry jam is not as sweet.
It's more tart, yeah.
I mean, you obviously add so much sugar into it that it's still sweet, but like, I think if you were to take a raw raspberry compote and a strawberry compote, the strawberry one will be a lot sweeter than the raspberry one.
Compote, look at this. Right, I'm diving in while you teach me new words. What should I be tasting?
The palate is surprisingly full and oily with waves of coffee cream, spice, and juicy lime. And then on the finish, there is a delicate spicy prickle and lingering vanilla. So I don't know why it's surprisingly oily, but I suppose because it's...
Well, normally single grain's like quite sweet and quite down the line and down the middle of the palate, isn't it? I was going to say palate and mouth then, and then I nearly said pouth. But the palate, down the middle of the pouth. Whereas this one, it's definitely wider. It's wider mouthfeel.
Almost has a smokiness in there somewhere.
It does.
I don't know if that's just like the coffee mixed with the creaminess, like
feeling a bit the sweetness, like maybe they're bringing up memories of medicinal peat.
Might be. It's hard to tell.
The sweetness definitely develops through the finish, so I get like the lingering vanilla, but it's not particularly sweet when you first taste it. I wouldn't say.
That's what I think is like this coffee cream concept. It's like, because coffee's quite bitter and cream's obviously quite so. But a coffee cream in my head would be like a Bailey's, like a coffee. Yeah. Whereas I feel like it's more like the bitterness of coffee or smoke, but with the feel of.
I don't think there's much bitterness there. It's making me think of like condensed milk. Like that kind of sweetness, but it's like a milk sweetness.
Yeah, I suppose it's not like fructose or a sucrose. It's a black.
Yeah, it's not like full. It's like cream, but with some sugar added in.
Like squirty cream out of a can.
Yeah. I think that's a good shout.
Because that stuff definitely has added sugar because
it's like 90% sugar, I imagine.
Much better than normal cream.
Oh, I don't know. I really like normal cream.
No, I just mean like, you have normal cream. You're not going to put. No, what I mean is if you have just normal cream on its own, you have a spoonful and you're like, that's far too rich. I feel done. Whereas your body is not built that way for sugar. You know, it's like, oh, sugar, good. Let's have more.
Yeah. I know what you mean. Because like, if you had a scone, like if me and you were somewhere and there was scones and there was double cream and square cream and you went for the square cream, I'd probably have to kill you.
Yeah, no. A square cream is better to go on like a pie because the pie's already rich enough. I mean, like a fruit pie, not a...
Yeah, okay. I'd accept. I still think I'd rather have double cream, but I could accept that. But it's like, yeah, a scone. Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah. So squirted cream. I'm not getting the lime. You getting any citrus through the flavour?
No. Not even in the finish. It's very.
I'm trying.
It's creamy. There's no sharpness to it. It's very smooth for me. And then in the finish, there is a quick bit of sharpness, but it's spicy, not like bitter.
So I've put custard cream with raspberry tea, squirted cream, oily, wide mouthfeel, light spice, and vanilla on the finish.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
I'll give it a score.
I think I'm going to go to a 4 on this one.
I think a 4 is a good shout. Which, you know, surprises no one. We don't often deviate by that much.
No. It's almost like we have very similar tastes for the most part.
It's almost like the only way we can be friends is the fact that we agree on everything.
Yeah.
Not interested in being friends who don't see perfectly eye to eye.
Whiskey is not something that we disagree about very often.
Do we disagree about much?
Not really, but
yeah. I mean,
I feel
there's
like
little things, you know, like I'm not on Russia's side in the current conflict, but you know, that's fine. You choose.
I'm not on Russia's side. I'm on nobody's side. I work for the NATO. I work for a NATO government. You know, one of them is definitely not supportable, and the other one, well, they had their chance. I'm joking, fully. By the way,
this is not a conversation for 5 whiskies in.
No, that was fully a joke. Please don't cancel me. I obviously do not agree with the illegal occupation and attempted growth of attempted.
I tell you what, though,
building of the former United Soviet Socialist Republics.
I tell you what, though, sinking of the Moskva, that was interesting.
Yeah, well, here's my question: what looks worse for you as a country that you consider inferior managed to hit one of your ships with a torpedo or a missile, or that you literally
home-built missile?
Well,
home-built missile as well, not a NATO missile.
Yeah, or that you literally put out a warship to war that was capable of just sinking on its own.
Well, it gets better.
Are you that incompetent?
It gets better because.
Well, then they claimed that it was their own weapons compartment that blew up.
Yeah, they were like, oh,
so now you're saying that we
sank it ourselves.
Your trained naval personnel are so incompetent that they can't maintain a weapons compartment.
Well, I mean, it gets better because the Moskva had just been refitted, and it's like the Type 45. It's their anti-air.
Yeah.
But the Type 45 is like 6,000 to 9,000 tons, depending on loadout.
Yeah.
Moskva is 12,500. It was a big ship. But do you know why it got hit? What the reasoning was?
It didn't get hit.
No, sorry. So if it had been hit, hypothetically,
yeah.
Do you know how you'd do it? So the Moskva has got had, you know, the Moskva submarine. It's got 3 layers of anti-air defense. So it's got 2 sets of missiles, long range, kind of mid range, and then it's got a close-in weapon systems. You know, like we've got Phalanx, which is a 20 millimeter minigun.
Which should be able to take out a cruise missile.
Yes. So Phalanx is basically your last ditch effort. It's independent. It's got its own radar. It's independent, and it should be able to target something. A cruise missile and ship missile should be. And the Russian system is supposedly better than anyone else's because I think it's got 2 miniguns and they're like 30-40 millimeters and blah blah blah. But what you need is to tell the thing where to look. The Phalanx, the whatever it is on the Russian ships, the AK something whatever. You need a guidance radar, targeting radar. And you need 2 because each one gives you 180-degree coverage. So on most US Navy ships, UK Navy ships, pretty much every frontline Navy ship that's got these things.
Yeah.
You have 2, fore and aft. What the Russians did was they didn't put the aft one on, they put another gun on.
Oh.
So they had 180-degree coverage with the radar. So what the Ukrainians
could
have done, potentially. Yeah. So what the
Ukrainians
Ukrainians
put another gun at the back of the ship.
Yes. So
Logic.
if the Ukrainians had a sun kit, what they did was they sent a hypothetical drone at one side, and all the radar looked at that, and then they sent 2 hypothetical anti-ship missiles straight into the back of it.
It almost sounds like the Russians kind of never thought that they would have to defend. And they'd always be on the attack, facing the enemy.
It certainly seems like this special military operation is not a war. I don't want to get put in jail for 15 years in Russia. It's characterized by supreme arrogance on one side of the earth.
And an inability to tell their boss that they're failing to do their job.
And NATO's gleeful use of a proxy force to test out their munitions against. Because, I mean, basically, in the world, you know, you either armed with NATO kit or Russian kit. I mean, okay, China makes some stuff, but, you know, it's still generally ex-Soviet stuff.
Apart from one thing, which is really, really scary, but we'll have to go.
But this is, you know, it's an interesting test for NATO to be like, does our kit actually perform that well against Russian kit? Yes.
In fact, you can give it to a moderately untrained army.
yeah, and let them have fun. We should probably come off that and get on to the final whiskey.
Should. So, we're back still with Berry Bros and Rudd. This one, a little bit older than anything else we've had in the box. This is the Invergordon 1988 29-year-old. So that would give this a bottling date of 2017.
Yeah.
And it says on the card, Invergordon Grain Distillery is a ways up north in the Highlands, near its more famous White Mackay-owned stablemate Dalmore. Notoriously excellent when aged for a few decades, this is a really compelling bottling at nearly 30 years old. So on the nose, it says, the nose gives toasted oak, apple and melon skin with a fresh menthol note. There is some honeyed depth and cinnamon spice, which sounds very interesting. I'm guessing by melon skin, they mean the slightly more bitter smell of when you actually bite into the rind.
Like a flatter smell. I could say apple skin, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's oak in there, fine. It is very clean, so maybe that's what they mean by the menthol note. Maybe a light spice.
It's got a freshness to it. It has, I wouldn't say menthol, I'd say maybe spearmint.
Yeah.
For me, menthol is a lot. Menthol's very specific. Eucalyptus
My
and
eyes
menthol
watch
are
is
that,
menthol.
like, yeah. I could get, so that melon skin I could get, it's that floralness again, but it's very...
Right, I'm going
apple's in. Closer. So on the palate, it says, the palate is beautifully expansive with bourbon cast notes, buttery vanilla and creme caramel, with a finish that is graceful and lingering.
That's really nice. That is really nice. That's like... trying to think, like not creme caramel. What's the? It's like a panna cotta.
Yeah, like a creme brulee.
Yeah, they're not the same, but yeah.
No, similar.
Yeah.
Not quite, but also quite.
Yeah. I like it. It's got that kind of vanilla sweetness.
Yeah, this is very nice.
But like with extra sugar. It's Yeah, it's vanilla. It's smooth. It's got that creaminess but sweetness. That's lovely. That is really nice.
It is buttery. The word out there that I take it is buttery. The texture of that is sublime.
It's very, very good.
And then the flavour at the end is just a warm, not warm, but like it's like buttery popcorn almost.
Yeah. Yeah.
Trying to think of a better way of doing it. Or like a Rice Krispie marshmallow cake or something, but not quite as sweet as that. It's kind of hard to pinpoint what it is. It's like it's the sweet savouriness.
Yeah, I know what you mean. It is hard to give. If you've not had like it's something that it immediately conjures a memory of, it's hard to give it something. Do you want to give that one a score to finish off?
I would give that a 4.5.
Yeah, easy.
And I would say, as far as comparing and contrasting goes, that one was good and one is great.
Yeah, one is like, here's what grain whiskey can, like if you're saying those J.G. Thompsons were intros to their styles.
Yeah.
That was almost an intro to single grain, and then that last one was like, and this is how good it can be.
Yeah. This is what happens if you get a good spirit and give it 30 years.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that was lovely.
And given that sometimes, not wanting to hammer an old nail, but flogging dead horses, etc., but, that Berry Bros have shown how bad, in my opinion, how bad giving something too long in a cask can be. That's the opposite. And, to pretend like they haven't redeemed themselves tenfold. Another redemption.
The other one who still hates them, I think they're great.
I don't hate them. Just hate one thing they did.
Hates them. Every single berry brother, raspberry, blackberry.
And even that guy Rod. I always hated his comedies.
Well, yeah, gooseberry, blackberry, raspberry, and Paul Rudd.
Yeah.
Not looking bad to say he's been on since 1698.
Yeah, well, that's what being able to turn yourself microscopic will do.
Is it?
He's Ant-Man, isn't he?
Yes, but I don't know why that'll make you live 400 years, but fair enough.
Oh, because time matters. Time travels differently depending on gravity and all that stuff. We don't need to get into physics.
Yeah, okay. Fair enough. We've done politics, we've done physics. So, slightly different episode. Hopefully you enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And hopefully it's not uploaded too much later than...
Yeah, we've got probably enough of a backlog to just do a weekly one until the next year.
Till 2031, yeah, probably.
Yeah.
But as always, thank you for listening. Hope you enjoyed, and we will see you next time.
Cheerio.
Bye.